My name is Sarah, and I need to tell you what really happened that night in New York. Everyone thinks they know the story. They think I'm the monster mother who ruined her own son's big day. But before you judge me, let me tell you the truth. Because what I discovered that night changed everything. And by morning, there was no wedding left to save. Wait, before I continue, I need you to understand something important. What I'm about to tell you will make you question everything you think you know about family, about trust, about the people we love most. So stay with me, because this story has more twists than a roller coaster, and the ending, well, you'll never see it coming. It started 3 months earlier. My son Jake had been dating Emma for 2 years. She seemed perfect, blonde hair, bright smile, always polite when she came over for Sunday dinner. I tried so hard to like her. I really did. But something felt wrong. Call it mother's instinct, but every time she hugged me, it felt cold. Empty. Jake was head over heels. At 25, he'd never been so happy. He'd bounce into my kitchen like a little boy again, talking about wedding plans and how Emma was the one. My heart should have been full of joy. Instead, it felt heavy with worry. "Mom, you're going to love the venue," Jake said one Sunday, his eyes sparkling. "Emma picked this beautiful place upstate. It's going to cost us a fortune, but she says we only get married once." I smiled and nodded, but inside, alarm bells were ringing. Emma had expensive taste in everything. Her clothes, her car, even her coffee. Jake was a teacher. He made okay money, but not enough for the lifestyle Emma seemed to want. "How are you paying for all this, honey?" I asked gently. Jake's face got red. "Don't worry about it, Mom. We've got it handled." But I did worry. I worried every single day. 2 weeks later, Jake came over alone. This never happened anymore. Emma was always attached to his hip. He looked tired, older somehow. "Mom, can we talk?" He sat down at my kitchen table, the same spot where he used to do homework as a kid. My heart stopped. "What's wrong?" "Emma thinks." He paused, playing with his hands. "She thinks you don't like her." The words hit me like a punch. "Jake, that's not true. She says you never smile when she's around. That you ask too many questions about money and our plans." His voice was quiet, hurt. "She wants to know if you're going to be a problem." A problem? I had raised this boy by myself after his father died when he was 8. I worked 2 jobs to put him through college. I was there for every scraped knee, every broken heart, every celebration. And now I was a problem. "I just want you to be happy," I whispered. "Then try harder with Emma. Please, Mom. She's going to be your daughter-in-law." I promised I would try. But deep down, something was eating at me. Here's where the story gets crazy. What I found out next will blow your mind. But first, let me ask you something. Have you ever had that feeling that someone is lying to you, but you can't prove it? That's exactly what was happening to me. And I was about to find out just how right I was. The next month, I decided to throw Emma a surprise bridal shower. Maybe if I showed her how much I cared, things would get better between us. I spent weeks planning it, calling her friends, picking out decorations. When I called Emma's best friend Lisa to invite her, something strange happened. "Oh, Sarah, that's so sweet," Lisa said. "But I'm confused. Emma told me you two didn't get along." My blood went cold. "What did she say exactly?" "She said you were jealous of her relationship with Jake. That you've been trying to break them up since day one." I hung up the phone with shaking hands. Emma was lying about me. But why? I decided to call Emma directly. "Hi Emma, it's Sarah. I wanted to surprise you with a bridal shower next weekend." There was a long pause. "Oh, that's nice. But I already have plans." "What plans?" Another pause. "Just plans." Her voice was cold, distant. Nothing like the sweet girl who came to Sunday dinner. "Emma, have I done something to upset you?" Look, Sarah, I think we need to be honest with each other. Her voice changed completely. The fake sweetness was gone. I know you don't like me. And honestly, I don't really like you either. My heart stopped beating. Jake deserves better than a mother who judges his choices, she continued. Maybe it's time you took a step back. She hung up on me. I sat in my kitchen for 2 hours, crying. This girl, this stranger, was trying to steal my son from me. And it was working. I called Jake that night. Mom, Emma told me about your call. His voice was different. Cold. She's really hurt. Jake, she was rude to me. She said dash. Mom, stop. He cut me off. Emma is under a lot of stress with the wedding. Maybe you should just give her some space. Some space. I'm your mother. And she's going to be my wife. She comes first now. The words cut through me like glass. She comes first now. After that call, things got worse. Emma stopped coming to Sunday dinners. Jake's visits became shorter, less frequent. When he did come over, he seemed distracted, always checking his phone. Is everything okay? I asked him one Sunday. Yeah, Mom. Everything's perfect. But his eyes looked tired, worried. Jake, you know you can tell me anything, right? He looked at me for a long moment. For a second, I thought he might open up. Then his phone buzzed. A text from Emma. I have to go, he said, kissing my cheek quickly. You're probably thinking this is just a typical mother-in-law, daughter-in-law problem. But trust me, it gets much worse. What I discovered next changed everything I thought I knew about my son's relationship. And it all started with a simple mistake that exposed the biggest lie of all. 2 weeks before the wedding, I was at the grocery store when I ran into Jake's old friend Mike. Hey, Mrs. Johnson. Excited for the big day? Of course, I smiled. Are you coming to the wedding? Mike looked confused. I wasn't invited. My heart sank. Mike and Jake had been best friends since middle school. They'd played on the same football team, went to college together. How could Jake not invite his best friend? That's strange, I said carefully. Maybe the invitation got lost in the mail? Mike shook his head. No, Jake told me directly. He said Emma thought it would be better to keep the guest list small. Family only. But I knew the truth. Emma's side of the church was going to be packed with her friends and family. Jake's side would have maybe 10 people. That night, I looked through Jake's old photo albums. Picture after picture of him and Mike. Best friends for 15 years. And Emma had convinced him not to invite Mike to his wedding. I started thinking about all the other friends Jake had stopped seeing. His cousin David, who used to come over every weekend. His buddy Tom from work. One by one, Emma had found reasons why Jake shouldn't spend time with them. She was isolating him. Just like his father used to do to me. Wait, I haven't told you about Jake's father yet. This is important, because history was repeating itself in the worst possible way. Jake's dad, Robert, started out charming. He swept me off my feet when I was 22. But slowly, he began cutting me off from everyone I loved. First my friends, then my family. He'd find reasons why I shouldn't see them. They were bad influences, or jealous of our relationship. By the time I realized what was happening, I was completely alone. Just me and Robert. And then Jake came along, and Robert got worse. Controlling. Mean. He'd explode over the smallest things. One night when Jake was 6, Robert pushed me so hard I hit the wall. That was my wake-up call. I took Jake and left the next day. Robert died in a car accident 2 years later. I was sad for Jake's sake, but honestly, I was also relieved. We were free. I raised Jake to be different, kind, gentle, respectful of women. And he was. He really was. But now Emma was doing to him exactly what his father had done to me. And Jake couldn't see it. I had to do something. The week before the wedding, I called Jake. Honey, I'm worried about you. Why? When's the last time you saw Mike? Or David? Or any of your old friends? Jake was quiet for a long time. Emma thinks they're immature. She says married men need to focus on their wives, not hanging out with single guys. Jake, that's not healthy. Friends are important. Mom, please don't start this again. Start what? Trying to cause problems with Emma. I was losing him. My sweet, kind boy was disappearing, and this girl was taking his place with a stranger. What happened next still haunts me, because I discovered something that changed everything. And it all started with one terrible phone call. The night before the wedding, I couldn't sleep. Something felt wrong. Really wrong. At 11:30 p.m., I decided to call Jake one last time, just to tell him I loved him and wished him happiness. But Jake didn't answer. Emma did. Hello. Her voice was different. Not sweet at all. Emma. I was calling for Jake. He's in the shower. What do you want? I just wanted to wish him luck tomorrow. Emma laughed. Actually laughed. You're really something, you know that? Excuse me. Playing the innocent mother act. We both know what you're really doing. My hands started shaking. What are you talking about? You've been trying to break us up since day one. But guess what, Sarah? You lost. Jake chose me. He'll always choose me. Emma, I just want my son to be happy. Your son. She laughed again. He's not your son anymore. Tomorrow he becomes my husband. And I'm going to make sure you understand exactly where you stand in this family. What do you mean? I mean you're not wanted here anymore. Jake agrees with me. We've talked about it. My world started spinning. That's not true. Oh, it is. After tomorrow, you're out. No more Sunday dinners. No more dropping by unannounced. No more pretending to be the sweet grandmother when we have kids. Emma, please dash. We don't want you at family holidays. We don't want you babysitting our children. We don't want you in our lives at all. I couldn't breathe. Put Jake on the phone. No. He doesn't want to talk to you. He asked me to tell you, you're no longer part of this family. The line went dead. I sat in my dark kitchen, holding the phone, crying harder than I had since Robert died. My son, my baby boy, didn't want me anymore. But here's the thing about rock bottom. Sometimes it's exactly where you need to be to see the truth clearly. And what I realized that night was about to change everything. At first I just cried. I cried for the little boy who used to crawl into bed with me during thunderstorms. I cried for the teenager who still hugged me goodbye every morning before school. I cried for the young man who called me every Sunday just to talk. All of that was gone. Emma had won. But then, around 2 a.m., something changed. I got angry. Really angry. This girl had stolen my son. She'd turned him against his own mother. She'd isolated him from his friends, controlled his choices, and now she was cutting me out completely. Just like Robert had done to me. Except Jake wasn't some naive young girl. He was a grown man. And he was letting her do this. I thought about calling him, begging him to reconsider. But then I realized something important. If Jake could throw away 25 years of love and devotion because his girlfriend told him to, then maybe Emma was right. Maybe I wasn't part of this family anymore. But I wasn't going down without a fight. I spent the rest of the night making a decision. If Jake wanted to cut me out of his life for this girl, fine. But he was going to hear the truth first. All of it. I wrote him a letter. A long letter explaining everything I'd seen, everything I'd noticed about Emma. How she'd isolated him from his friends. How she'd turned him against me with lies. How she was controlling and manipulative, just like his father. I wrote about the phone call. About her cruel words. About how she'd laughed when she told me I wasn't wanted anymore. I wrote about love. About how real love doesn't ask you to choose between the people you care about. About how a good partner brings out the best in you, not the worst. And then I wrote about respect. About how I'd raised him to treat people with kindness, and how disappointed I was that he'd let someone convince him to throw that away. I ended the letter with this. Jake, I will always love you. You are my son, my heart, my greatest achievement. But I will not stand by and watch you become someone I don't recognize. I will not pretend to support a marriage built on lies and manipulation. If you choose Emma over your family, your friends, and your values, then you're choosing to become your father. And I didn't survive Robert just to watch you turn into him. I love you too much to watch that happen. At 6 a.m., I drove to Jake's apartment and slipped the letter under his door. Then I went home, turned off my phone, and waited. You're probably thinking I made a huge mistake. That I should have just kept quiet and hoped for the best. But what happened next proved I made exactly the right choice. Although it wasn't for the reason you might think. At 10 a.m., there was a knock on my door. I thought it might be Jake, but when I looked through the peephole, I saw Mike. Jake's best friend Mike. I opened the door, and Mike looked terrible. Like he hadn't slept all night. Mrs. Johnson, we need to talk. About what? About Jake. About the wedding. About Emma. He came in and sat at my kitchen table, the same spot where Jake used to sit. I got a call from Jake this morning at 7 a.m., Mike said. He was crying. Actually crying. He said you'd written him some letter, and he didn't know what to do. My heart stopped. Is he okay? Mrs. Johnson, there's something you need to know about Emma. Something Jake doesn't know. I sat down across from him. What? Mike took a deep breath. I've been trying to figure out how to tell Jake for months. Emma, she's not who she says she is. What do you mean? I mean she's been lying about everything. Her job, her family, her past. Everything. The world tilted sideways. How do you know this? Because I recognized her. It took me a while to remember where, but I finally figured it out last week. Mike pulled out his phone and showed me a news article from 3 years ago. The headline read, "Local woman arrested for credit card fraud." The photo showed Emma. Younger, different hair, but definitely Emma. Her real name isn't Emma Watson, Mike said. It's Emily Williams. She's been arrested twice, once for credit card fraud, once for writing bad checks. She moved here from Chicago after skipping out on her last boyfriend's apartment lease. I couldn't breathe. Does Jake know? That's what I've been trying to figure out. I think she's been using him. Think about it. He's got a steady job, good credit, savings. She's been pushing for this expensive wedding, pushing him to put everything on his credit cards. Suddenly, everything made sense. Emma's expensive taste. Her push for the fancy wedding. Her need to isolate Jake from anyone who might ask questions. I was going to tell Jake weeks ago, Mike continued. But every time I tried to call him, Emma would answer. She said he was busy, or tired, or didn't want to talk. And when I tried to approach him at work, she'd show up and drag him away. She's been controlling his communication, I whispered. Exactly. Mrs. Johnson, I think your son is in real trouble. And after he read your letter this morning, I think he's starting to see it too. Mike stood up. He asked me to come talk to you. He's scared, Mrs. Johnson. Really scared. He said Emma threatened to call off the wedding if he didn't cut you out completely. But after reading your letter, he realized you were right about everything. My hands were shaking. Where is he now? That's the problem. He went to confront Emma about the lies, about the phone call she made to you. That was 3 hours ago. I haven't heard from him since. What happened next was the most terrifying and eye-opening moment of my entire life. Because when we finally found Jake, we discovered just how dangerous Emma really was. Mike and I drove to Jake's apartment. His car was in the parking lot, but when we knocked, no one answered. I used my spare key to get in. Jake. I called. Jake, are you here? We found him in his bedroom, sitting on the edge of the bed, staring at the wall. His face was pale, and his hands were shaking. Jake. I rushed to him. Are you okay? He looked up at me with tears in his eyes. Mom, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I hugged him tight, like I used to when he was little. It's okay, baby. Everything's going to be okay. No, it's not. He pulled back and looked at me. Emma's gone. She took everything. What do you mean everything? Jake's voice was barely a whisper. When I confronted her about the phone call, about lying to you, she got angry. Really angry. She started screaming, throwing things. Then she got quiet, and that was worse. He stood up and walked to his dresser. All the drawers were pulled out, empty. She took all my credit cards, my checkbook, my savings account information. She said if I didn't marry her today, she'd ruin my credit, empty my accounts, and disappear. My blood ran cold. Did you call the police? She said if I called the police, she'd tell them I hit her. That she has bruises to prove it. Jake's voice broke. Mom, I never touched her. I would never hurt anyone. We know that, Jake, Mike said. Everyone who knows you knows that. Jake continued, but she said no one would believe me. That she'd already told some of her friends I was getting violent. She said she was just protecting herself. I felt sick. This girl, this criminal, had been planning this all along. She'd chosen Jake because he was kind, trusting, and had money. She'd isolated him so no one could warn him or help him. Where did she go? I asked. I don't know. She packed everything and left. But before she went, she said something that scared me. What? She said this wasn't over. That if I tried to expose her, she'd make sure I lost everything. My job, my reputation, my family. Jake looked at me with haunted eyes. She said she'd make sure you got hurt too, Mom. The wedding was supposed to start in 2 hours. But instead of walking down the aisle, we were sitting in a police station, filing reports. And that's when we learned the most shocking truth of all. The detective who took our report was a woman named Detective Rodriguez. When we told her Emma's real name and showed her the old arrest records Mike had found, her face went white. Emily Williams, she said slowly. We've been looking for her for 6 months. Why? I asked. She's part of a larger scam. She targets men online, builds relationships with them, gets access to their finances, then disappears. But Jake's case is different. How? Detective Rodriguez looked serious. The other victims were just robbed and abandoned. But with Jake, she was planning something bigger. Marriage would have given her legal access to everything. His house, his retirement accounts, his credit. And as his wife, it would have been much harder to prosecute her. Jake was staring at his hands. I almost married a criminal. Jake, honey, this isn't your fault, I said. She's a professional liar. She fooled everyone. But she didn't fool you, Mom. You saw right through her from the beginning. Detective Rodriguez continued. There's something else. We think Emily has been planning to disappear right after the wedding. We found evidence that she booked a flight to Mexico for tomorrow morning. But she's gone already, Mike said. Maybe. Or maybe she's waiting to see if Jake shows up at the wedding. If he does, she might try one last time to go through with the marriage. My heart stopped. You mean she might be at the venue? It's possible. We've got officers heading there now. 2 hours later, we got the call. Emily, whatever her name was, had been arrested at the wedding venue. She'd been waiting in the bridal suite, dressed and ready, hoping Jake would show up. When the police arrived, she tried to run. In her purse, they found Jake's credit cards, blank checks, and detailed notes about his financial accounts. They also found something else. A list of other men she was targeting online. Jake wasn't her only victim. He was just the biggest score she'd ever tried to pull off. You'd think this is where the story ends. Bad girl gets caught, family reunites, everyone lives happily ever after. But the real lesson came in the weeks that followed, and it's something every family needs to hear. The legal stuff took months to sort out. Jake got most of his money back, but his credit was damaged. Emily, was sentenced to 3 years in prison and ordered to pay back all her victims. But the emotional damage took longer to heal. Jake was devastated. Not just because he'd been lied to and stolen from, but because he realized how badly he'd treated me. How he'd chosen a stranger over the person who'd loved him his whole life. "I don't know how you can forgive me," he said one Sunday, sitting at my kitchen table again. "Because I love you," I said simply. "That's what love does. But I chose her over you. I believed her lies about you." I took his hands in mine. "Jake, she was very good at what she did. She studied you, learned what you wanted to hear, and gave it to you. And then she slowly changed you into someone you're not. But I should have seen it. You tried to warn me." "Yes, I did. But you weren't ready to hear it then." Jake was quiet for a long time. Then he asked, "How did you know? What made you see through her when no one else did?" I thought about that question for a while. Because I'd lived through it before. With your father. I recognized the signs, the isolation, the control, the way she made you choose between her and everyone else you loved. I became like him, didn't I? Like Dad. You started to. But the difference is, you stopped. You listened. You came back. That conversation changed everything between us. Jake started seeing a counselor to work through what had happened. He reached out to all the friends Emma had convinced him to abandon. Most of them welcomed him back with open arms. Mike, especially, was just happy his best friend was safe. "I was so scared I'd lost you forever," Mike told Jake. "She had you so wrapped around her finger." "She almost succeeded," Jake replied. "If Mom hadn't written that letter, if you hadn't come forward with the truth, I'd probably be sitting in Mexico right now, broke and married to a criminal." Here's what I learned from this whole nightmare, and why I'm telling you this story. Love shouldn't require you to choose sides. Real love, the kind that lasts, brings people together, it doesn't tear them apart. If someone in your life is asking you to cut off family or friends, that's not love. That's control. Trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Even if you can't prove it, even if everyone thinks you're crazy, trust that inner voice. And most importantly, don't give up on the people you love. Even when they push you away, even when they seem lost, keep the door open. Sometimes people need to hit rock bottom before they can see clearly. Jake's friends threw him a freedom party a month after the arrest. It was everything his wedding should have been, full of laughter, surrounded by people who truly cared about him. "You know what the best part is?" Jake said to me that night. "What?" "I get to keep you as my mom." I hugged him tight, this grown man who would always be my little boy. "You never could have lost me, honey. No matter what happened, no matter what anyone said, I would have kept loving you. That's what mothers do." 6 months later, Jake met Sarah, a teacher at his school. She's kind, funny, and the first time she came to Sunday dinner, she asked to see his baby pictures. She laughed at my stories about his childhood and asked for my recipe for chocolate chip cookies. When she and Jake got engaged a year later, she asked me to help plan the wedding. "I want you to be part of everything," she said. "Jake says you're the most important woman in his life, and I want to be part of that, not compete with it." The wedding was small, simple, and perfect. All of Jake's friends were there. His cousin David was the best man. Mike gave a speech about how glad he was to have his best friend back. And when Jake kissed his new bride, I wasn't crying because I was losing him. I was crying because I knew he was finally, truly happy. That night when Emma called me and told me I was no longer part of the family, she thought she was destroying me. Instead, she set us all free. Sometimes the worst night of your life leads to the best day. Sometimes losing everything helps you realize what actually matters. And sometimes, just sometimes, A mother's love is strong enough to save her child from making the biggest mistake of his life. The phone call that destroyed my son's wedding saved my son's life. And I'd do it all again in a heartbeat. Because that's what real love does. It fights for what matters, even when it's hard. Even when it hurts. Even when everyone thinks you're wrong. My son Jake is happy now. Really happy. His wife Sarah is pregnant with their first child. A little girl they're naming after me. Emma is still in prison. Sometimes I wonder if she ever thinks about the family she almost destroyed. If she ever feels sorry for the pain she caused. But mostly, I don't think about her at all. I think about Sunday dinners with Jake and Sarah. About the grandchild who's coming. About how close we came to losing each other, and how grateful I am that loved one in the end. Because it always does, if you fight hard enough for it. That's my story. That's the truth about the night before the wedding that never happened. And I'm not sorry. Not even a little bit. My son is safe, happy, and surrounded by people who truly love him. Sometimes being the villain in someone else's story means being the hero in the one that actually matters. I saved my son. And he saved me right back. That's what family does.